For 50 years, I built an empire with these hands. My son thought he could steal it with a signature. He was about to learn that 69 doesn't mean stupid. I was reviewing the monthly reports from Castellano Construction when my son Michael walked into my office without knocking. Behind him came his wife Lisa, carrying a manila folder and wearing that fake smile she'd perfected over the years. "Dad, we need to talk," Michael said, settling into the chair across from my desk like he owned the place. Actually, I owned the place. Castellano Construction, established 1974. 47 years of blood, sweat, and concrete. But Michael had been acting like the heir apparent ever since his mother passed 2 years ago. "What's on your mind, son?" Lisa opened her folder with practiced efficiency. "Frank, we've been concerned about some inconsistencies in your recent business decisions." Inconsistencies. That was lawyer talk, and Lisa had never been a lawyer. "What kind of inconsistencies?" Michael leaned forward. "Dad, you signed 3 contracts last month without running them by me first. The Riverside project, the shopping center job, and the municipal building renovation. Those are good contracts, profitable." "That's not the point," Lisa interjected. "The point is, at your age, you shouldn't be making major financial decisions without oversight." At my age, I was 69, not 99. I still worked 10-hour days, still visited every job site, still knew every subcontractor by name. But apparently, crossing into my 70s meant I needed a babysitter. "Frank," Lisa continued, "we think it's time to consider some protective measures." She slid a document across my desk. The header read, "Petition for guardianship, Frank Castellano." The room went cold. I'd heard about this happening to other business owners, adult children who got tired of waiting for their inheritance. Who decided that Dad was losing it and needed professional help managing his affairs? What they really needed was professional help managing their greed. "You want to have me declared incompetent?" Michael's face flushed. "Dad, it's not about incompetence. It's about protection. The business has gotten too complex for one person to handle. I've been handling it just fine for 50 years. But you're making mistakes," Lisa said, pulling out another folder. "Last month you forgot to sign the payroll authorization. The week before that, you double-booked the crane rental. Yesterday you couldn't remember where you put the Riverside contract." Every single thing she mentioned was a lie. I'd signed the payroll authorization on time. I had the time-stamped receipt from the bank. The crane rental was never double-booked. Lisa had called and cancelled our backup reservation without telling me. And the Riverside contract was exactly where I'd left it, until someone moved it. But I realized something that made my blood run cold. They weren't just lying to me. They were building a case. "Michael, I want you both to leave my office now. Dad, we're trying to help. Get out." After they left, I sat alone in the office where I'd built my life's work. The walls were covered with photos spanning 5 decades, groundbreaking ceremonies, building completions, awards from the Chamber of Commerce, pictures of me with mayors, with union leaders, with the crews who trusted me to keep them employed through good times and bad. That's when I made the phone call that would save everything. "Tony Rodriguez Investigation Services. Tony, it's Frank Castellano. I need your help." Tony Rodriguez had been a detective with the New Jersey State Police for 30 years before retiring to start his own PI business. More importantly, he'd been my friend since we were kids in Newark, and he'd helped me navigate some tricky situations over the years. "Frankie, what's going on?" "My son and his wife just tried to get me declared incompetent so they can take over my business." The silence on the other end lasted 5 seconds. Then Tony's voice came back hard as nails, "Those bastards. What do you need?" "I need to know what they've been up to. Phone records, financial records, who they've been talking to. I have a feeling this guardianship petition isn't their first move. Consider it done. And Frank, don't sign anything they put in front of you. Don't agree to any medical evaluations. Don't give them an inch." That evening, I drove to my granddaughter Angela's apartment near Rutgers Medical School. At 21, she was the brightest member of the family, studying to become a neurologist. More importantly, she was the only family member I trusted completely. "Grandpa," she hugged me at the door, then pulled back with concern. "You look upset." "What's wrong?" I told her everything. The guardianship petition, the accusations of incompetence, my suspicions about Lisa and Michael's real motives. Angela's expression grew darker with every detail. "Grandpa, Do you know what medical grounds they're claiming for the guardianship? I pulled out the petition and handed it to her. She read it with the careful attention of someone who understood medical terminology. This is bullshit, she said flatly. They claim you have progressive cognitive decline consistent with early-stage dementia. But you don't have dementia, Grandpa. I'd know. I've been studying neurology for 3 years. Could they get a doctor to say I do? Angela's answer made my stomach drop. If they paid the right doctor, yeah. There are physicians who'll diagnose anything for the right price, especially if the family provides a list of concerning behaviors that sound medical. She kept reading. Look at this. They claim you've been increasingly forgetful, confused about dates and appointments, unable to manage complex financial decisions. It's like they wrote a script for dementia symptoms. None of that is true. I know it's not true. But Grandpa, if this goes to court, it won't matter what's true. It'll matter what they can convince a judge is true. That night I couldn't sleep. I walked through my house, the 4-bedroom colonial I'd bought in 1978 when business was booming, and thought about everything I stood to lose. The house was worth $850,000 now. The business was worth at least $1.5 million, maybe more with the contracts we had lined up. My investment accounts held another $400,000 in retirement savings. But it wasn't about the money. It was about the principle. I'd built Castellano Construction from nothing. Started with a pickup truck and a toolbox, working 18-hour days to establish a reputation for quality and reliability. I'd employed hundreds of people over the years, built schools and hospitals and office buildings that would stand for generations, and my own son wanted to steal it by convincing a judge I was too senile to run my own life. The next morning, Tony called with his first report. Frank, you're not going to like what I found. Tell me, Lisa's been in contact with 3 different elder care attorneys over the past 6 months. She's also been talking to a company called Senior Asset Management. They specialize in taking over elderly people's finances. My grip tightened on the phone. What else? Michael's been meeting with accountants about business valuations. He's also had conversations with 2 different real estate agents about selling commercial property. They'd been planning this for months. There's more. Frank, Lisa's been collecting evidence of your supposed incompetence. She's got a notebook with dates and times of alleged incidents. Stuff like Frank seemed confused during the staff meeting on Tuesday, and Frank couldn't remember the client's name on Thursday. None of that happened. I know it didn't, but she's building a case. And get this, she's been recording some of your conversations without your knowledge. The betrayal hit me like a sledgehammer. My own daughter-in-law had been secretly documenting my life, twisting normal moments into evidence of mental decline. Tony, I need you to do something for me. Name it. I want you to investigate Michael and Lisa's finances. See if they're in debt, if they need money. If there's a reason they're suddenly so interested in my business. Already on it. I'll have a report by tomorrow. That afternoon I was in my office when Michael returned, this time without Lisa. Dad, I think we got off on the wrong foot yesterday. Did we? He sat down and tried to look concerned. Look, I know the guardianship thing sounds scary, but it's really just a formality. You'd still be involved in all the major decisions. It's just that I'd handle the day-to-day financial stuff so you can relax and enjoy your retirement. The word retirement made my blood pressure spike. Michael, I'm not ready to retire. Dad, you're 69 years old. Most guys your age are playing golf and watching TV. You've earned the right to take it easy. And you've earned the right to run my company? His mask slipped for just a second. I've been working here for 15 years. I know the business inside and out. You know the accounting side. You've never run a job site, never dealt with unions, never had to make payroll when a client was late with payment. Those are just details. Dad, the real business is about numbers and contracts and financial management. That's when I knew for certain that Michael had no respect for what I'd built. To him, Castellano Construction was just numbers on a spreadsheet. He didn't understand the relationships, the reputation, the trust that had taken decades to establish. Michael, I want you to know something. I'm not signing any guardianship papers. I'm not stepping down from running my own company. And if you try to force this, you're going to discover that your old man isn't as helpless as you think. He stood up, his facade of concern finally cracking. Dad, you're making a mistake. We're trying to help you, No, son. You're trying to help yourselves. After he left, I called Angela. Grandpa, I've been thinking about what you told me. There's something you should know. What's that? I was at Dad and Lisa's house last weekend for dinner. I overheard them talking on the phone with someone about expediting the process and getting the medical documentation we need. My worst fears were being confirmed. Angela, I need you to do something that might be uncomfortable. Anything. Grandpa, I need you to keep your ears open when you're around your father and Lisa. If they're planning something, I need to know what it is. Grandpa, are you asking me to spy on my own parents? I thought about that question carefully. Angela deserved an honest answer. Sweetheart, I'm asking you to help protect your grandfather from people who want to steal everything he's worked for, even if those people happen to be your parents. She was quiet for a moment. Then, okay, Grandpa, I'll do it. That evening, I made a decision that would change everything. I called my attorney, James Sullivan, and scheduled an emergency meeting for the next morning. Then I called my accountant and asked him to prepare detailed financial reports on all my business assets. Finally, I opened my safe and took out a document I'd hoped I'd never need. My original will. Written 5 years ago when Michael was still the son I thought I knew. The will left everything to Michael. But wills can be changed, and after what I'd learned in the past 48 hours, mine definitely would be. As I sat in my study that night, surrounded by 50 years of business records and family photos, I realized something important. My son thought he was fighting a confused old man who wouldn't know how to defend himself, but he was actually fighting Frank Castellano, the kid from Newark who'd built an empire with his bare hands, who'd survived recessions and union strikes and crooked competitors, and Frank Castellano had never lost a fight he cared about winning. This one, I cared about more than any other. The war for my legacy was about to begin, and my son had no idea what he'd just awakened. Tony's investigation uncovered something that made my blood boil. My son wasn't just planning to steal my business, he'd already started. The next morning I met Tony at Romano's Diner, the same place where we'd planned our first construction deal 40 years ago. Tony slid a thick manila envelope across the table, his face grim. Frank, what I found is worse than we thought. I opened the envelope. Inside were bank statements, credit reports, phone records, and photographs that painted a picture of betrayal I never could have imagined. Your son Michael is in serious financial trouble, Tony began. He owes $180,000 on credit cards, another $85,000 in personal loans, and he's 3 months behind on his mortgage. How is that possible? I pay him $120,000 a year. Because Lisa has expensive tastes. Look at these credit card statements. Designer clothes, jewelry, luxury vacations, a $65,000 BMW lease. They've been living way beyond their means for years. But that was just the beginning. Frank, here's the real kicker. 6 months ago, Michael took out a $200,000 business loan using Castellano Construction as collateral. He forged your signature on the loan documents. My hands started shaking. He did what? It gets worse. The money from that loan, it didn't go into the business. It went straight into Michael and Lisa's personal accounts to pay off some of their debts. I stared at the forged signature on the loan documents. My own son had stolen $200,000 from the company I'd spent 50 years building. Tony, is there more? Unfortunately, yes. Lisa's been in contact with a company called Sunset Senior Care. They specialize in managing elderly people's assets after they're declared incompetent. She's already negotiated their fee structure, 15% of all assets under management. 15% of $2.3 million. They were planning to steal $345,000 just in management fees. And here's the most damning evidence. Tony pulled out a small digital recorder. Angela managed to record a conversation between Michael and Lisa last night. He pressed play. My daughter-in-law's voice came through clearly. The guardianship hearing is scheduled for next Friday. Dr. Morrison already agreed to testify that Frank has dementia. It cost us $5,000, but it's worth it. Michael's voice responded, what if Frank fights it? He won't. The old man doesn't understand how the legal system works. Once we have guardianship, we can liquidate everything within 6 months. The business, the house, all of it. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Not only were they planning to steal my life's work, They'd already bribed a doctor to provide false testimony about my mental state. Tony, I need you to find out everything you can about this Dr. Morrison. Already did. Dr. James Morrison, family practice physician. He's been investigated twice by the State Medical Board for questionable practices. Apparently, he's willing to write medical opinions for the right price. I closed the envelope and sat back in the diner booth. For 50 years, I'd built my reputation on honesty and hard work. Now my own family was using lies and bribery to destroy me. What's our next move, Tony? We need to get ahead of this. The hearing is in 5 days. We need evidence that Michael forged your signature, proof that Lisa's been planning this scam, and we need to discredit this Dr. Morrison before he can testify. That afternoon, I drove to my attorney's office with a plan that would change everything. James Sullivan had been my lawyer for 25 years. He'd handled every major contract, every business deal, every legal challenge I'd faced. More importantly, he knew me well enough to recognize that I was still sharp as a tack. Frank, what you're describing is elder financial abuse on multiple levels, he said after reviewing Tony's evidence. The forged loan documents alone are enough to send Michael to prison. I don't want to send my son to prison. Jim, I want to stop him from stealing my company. Those might be the same thing. I handed him a document I'd prepared the night before. I want to revoke Michael's access to all business accounts immediately. I want him removed as signatory on every Castellano Construction document, and I want a new will drawn up. Jim read through my instructions carefully. Frank, you're disinheriting your own son. No, I'm protecting my granddaughter from parents who think stealing is easier than earning. The new will was simple but devastating. Everything would go to Angela when she turned 25. With a trust fund managed by an independent board until then, Michael would receive exactly $1, the legal minimum to show he hadn't been forgotten, just deliberately excluded. But the will also included something else, a detailed explanation of why Michael was being disinherited, complete with copies of the forged loan documents and evidence of the guardianship scam. Jim, I want this will to be ironclad. When Michael realizes what he's lost, he's going to fight it with everything he has. Don't worry. Frank, after what you've shown me, no judge in New Jersey would overturn this will. That evening, Angela called with more intelligence from enemy territory. Grandpa, I have bad news. Mom and Dad are planning to have you committed for a psychiatric evaluation. What do you mean? They're going to claim you're having a mental health crisis. Something about you becoming paranoid and delusional, about family members trying to hurt you. The irony was staggering. I was being paranoid about my family trying to hurt me, and I was absolutely right. Angela, I need you to be very careful. If they suspect you're helping me, they might try to use you against me. Grandpa, there's something else. I overheard Mom on the phone with someone today. She said, once we get the old man out of the way, we can sell the business to Castellano Construction for $1.8 million. Castellano Construction was my biggest competitor. They'd been trying to buy me out for years, and I'd always refused. They already have a buyer lined up? It sounds like it. Mom said the deal could close within 30 days of getting guardianship. Now, I understood the full scope of their plan. They weren't just trying to control my assets. They were planning to liquidate everything as quickly as possible and disappear with the money. The next morning, I implemented the first phase of my counterattack. I arrived at the Castellano Construction office at 6 a.m., 2 hours before anyone else. Using my master keys, I accessed Michael's office and found exactly what I was looking for: copies of the forged loan documents, along with correspondence between Michael and Sunset Senior Care. But I also found something that made my blood run cold: a detailed timeline for Project Independence, which was their code name for taking over my life. Phase 1. Build case for incompetence completed. Phase 2. Secure medical testimony in progress. Phase 3. File guardianship petition completed. Phase 4. Win guardianship hearing scheduled. Phase 5. Liquidate assets 30 days post-guardianship. Phase 6. Relocate to Florida. Target date 6 months. They were planning to steal everything and leave the state. I photographed every document with my phone, then replaced everything exactly as I'd found it. Michael would never know I'd been there. At 8 a.m., Michael walked into the office like nothing had changed. He even brought me coffee, playing the role of the concerned son. Morning, Dad. How are you feeling today? I'm feeling like a man who's about to teach his son a very expensive lesson. He laughed nervously. Dad, you're starting to worry me with talk like that. Am I? Well, let me give you something real to worry about. I handed him a letter from my attorney. Effective immediately, you are removed from all signatory authority on Castellano Construction accounts. Your access to company credit cards has been terminated. Your company vehicle is to be returned by 5 p.m. today. Michael's face went white as he read the letter. Dad, you can't do this. I'm your son. You were my son. Now you're just an employee who's been stealing from the company. I haven't stolen anything. I pulled out copies of the forged loan documents. Really? Then how do you explain these? Michael stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. For a moment, I thought he might try to deny it. Instead, he chose a different strategy. Dad, I can explain. The company needed that loan for cash flow. You weren't available to sign and we had to move fast, so you committed forgery and grand theft instead of waiting for me. It's not theft if it's for the family business. That's when I knew there was no saving my son. He genuinely believed that stealing from me was justified because he was family. He thought being my heir gave him the right to take whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted it. Michael, you have a choice to make. You can resign from Castellano Construction today and drop this guardianship nonsense, or you can fight me and lose everything. You're bluffing. You need me. Who else is going to run the business when you're gone? I smiled for the first time in days. I've been running this business since before you were born. I think I can manage without a thief on the payroll. Michael stormed out of my office, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. 20 minutes later, Lisa called. Frank, Michael is very upset. He says you're acting irrationally. Lisa, I know about the $5,000. You paid Dr. Morrison. I know about your deal. With Sunset Senior Care, I know about your plan to sell my business to Marino Construction. The silence on the other end lasted 10 seconds. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because I have recordings of you discussing all of it. Another long silence. Frank, you're making a terrible mistake. Michael and I are the only family you have left. Without us, you'll be alone. Lisa, I'd rather be alone than surrounded by thieves. She hung up without another word. That afternoon, Tony called with the final piece of the puzzle. Frank, I traced the $200,000 from the forged loan. Want to guess where most of it went? Gambling debts. Close. Lisa's been investing in cryptocurrency with a company that turned out to be a scam. She lost $150,000 in 3 months. So that was it. They weren't just greedy. They were desperate. Lisa had gambled away a fortune and needed to steal from me to cover their losses. That evening, I sat in my study reviewing everything I'd learned over the past week. My son was a forger and a thief. My daughter-in-law was a gambling addict and a manipulator. Together, they'd planned to destroy my life's work to fund their failures. But I wasn't finished with them yet. Tomorrow was Thursday. The guardianship hearing was scheduled for Friday morning, which meant I had less than 24 hours to destroy their case. Completely, I picked up the phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in 15 years. Morrison Engineering. This is Dan Morrison. Dan, this is Frank Castellano. Remember me? Frank? Of course I remember you. How's business? Dan Morrison was Michael's old boss from his first engineering job. And more importantly, he was Dr. James Morrison's younger brother. Dan, I need to ask you about your brother James. I hear he's been having some professional difficulties. Frank, James is an embarrassment to the family. He's been selling phony medical opinions to lawyers for years. Why do you ask? Perfect. Even Dr. Morrison's own family knew he was corrupt. Because he's about to testify that I have dementia, and I thought you should know that your brother is about to commit perjury in a New Jersey courtroom. Jesus, Frank James is going to get himself arrested, and probably lose his medical license permanently this time. Dan, would you be willing to testify about your brother's reputation for honesty? Frank, I'd be happy to. That son of a bitch has been embarrassing our family for years. After I hung up, I called Jim Sullivan and told him about our new witness. Frank, between the forged loan documents, the recorded conversations, and testimony from Dr. Morrison's own brother about his corruption, their case is going to collapse completely. Good. But I want more than just a victory. Jim, I want consequences. What kind of consequences? I want Michael and Lisa arrested for elder abuse, fraud, and conspiracy. I want them to understand that stealing from family isn't a civil matter. It's a crime. Frank, are you sure about this? Once we involve criminal charges, there's no going back. I thought about the question for exactly 3 seconds. Jim, my son, stopped being family the moment he decided to forge my signature. Now he's just a criminal who happens to share my DNA. Okay, Frank, I'll contact the prosecutor's office tomorrow morning. That night, I called Angela one last time before the hearing. Grandpa, are you ready for tomorrow? Sweetheart, I've been ready for this fight since the day your father thought he could steal from me. What's going to happen to Mum and Dad? And that depends on how much they've learned about consequences. But either way, you don't have to worry about your future anymore. What do you mean? You'll understand after tomorrow's hearing. Just know that your grandfather loves you, and everything I'm doing is to make sure you never have to watch your parents try to steal from you the way they tried to steal from me. As I hung up the phone, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Peace. Tomorrow, Michael and Lisa would walk into that courtroom expecting to take control of my life. Instead, they were about to discover that Frank Castellano didn't build a multi-million-dollar business by being anyone's victim. The hunter was about to become the hunted, and they had no idea what was coming for them. Friday morning arrived like Judgment Day. Michael and Lisa walked into that courtroom expecting to take control of my life. They left in handcuffs. I arrived at the Essex County Family Court 30 minutes early, wearing my best suit and carrying a briefcase filled with evidence that would destroy my son's case. Jim Sullivan met me at the courthouse steps, along with Tony Rodriguez and a surprise witness that would blow this whole thing wide open. Frank, are you ready for this? Jim asked. I've been ready since the moment they decided to steal from me. Inside the courtroom, I saw Michael and Lisa sitting with their attorney, a slick-looking man named Bradley Chen, who specialized in elder law cases. They were probably paying him with money stolen from my business. Judge Patricia Williams took the bench at exactly 9 a.m. She was a stern woman in her 50s who'd been handling family court cases for 20 years. I'd heard she had zero tolerance for fraud. Good morning, Judge Williams began. We're here for the petition of guardianship filed by Michael Castellano regarding his father, Frank Castellano. Mr. Chen, you may proceed. Bradley Chen stood up with the confidence of a man who thought he held all the cards. Your Honor, my clients are deeply concerned about Frank Castellano's declining mental state. Over the past 6 months, Mr. Castellano has exhibited classic signs of dementia, confusion about financial matters, inability to remember important business details, and increasingly erratic decision-making. He gestured toward Michael and Lisa. My clients have documented numerous incidents of concerning behavior. Mr. Castellano has forgotten to sign payroll authorizations, double-booked equipment rentals, and misplaced important contracts. Every word out of his mouth was a lie, and I was about to prove it. Furthermore, Your Honor, we have medical testimony from Dr. James Morrison, who will confirm that Mr. Castellano shows clear signs of cognitive decline requiring professional oversight. Judge Williams looked at me directly. Mr. Castellano, do you understand why you're here today? As I stood up, yes, Your Honor. I'm here because my son and his wife want to steal my business, and they think calling me senile is easier than earning it honestly. The judge raised an eyebrow. My answer was clearly not what she expected from someone with dementia. Mr. Sullivan, you may present your client's response. Jim stood up and opened our briefcase like a prosecutor about to deliver a closing argument. Your Honor, what we have here isn't a case of elder protection. It's a case of elder abuse. The petitioners have systematically lied about Mr. Castellano's mental state while simultaneously stealing from his business. He handed the judge a stack of documents. These are bank records showing that Michael Castellano forged his father's signature on a $200,000 business loan and diverted the funds to personal accounts. Michael's face went white. Lisa grabbed his arm. Furthermore, Your Honor, we have recorded conversations between the petitioners discussing their plan to have Mr. Castellano declared incompetent, liquidate his assets, and relocate to Florida with the proceeds. Jim pressed play on a digital recorder. Lisa's voice filled the courtroom. Once we get the old man out of the way, We can sell the business to Marino Construction for $1.8 million. Judge Williams leaned forward. Mr. Chen, do you have a response to these allegations? Bradley Chen was scrambling through his papers like a man looking for a life preserver on a sinking ship. Your Honor, these recordings were obtained illegally. They should be inadmissible. Actually, Jim replied, they were obtained by Mr. Castellano's granddaughter, who lives in the same household and had every right to record conversations in her own home. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. Your Honor, Jim continued, we'd like to call Dr. James Morrison to the stand. Dr. Morrison walked to the witness stand, looking like a man who'd rather be anywhere else. He was thin, nervous, and kept glancing at Michael and Lisa, like he was expecting rescue that wasn't coming. Dr. Morrison, Jim began, you've prepared a medical opinion stating that Frank Castellano suffers from dementia. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. And this opinion is based on your examination of Mr. Castellano? Dr. Morrison hesitated. Well, I reviewed his medical history and interviewed family members about his behavior. So you never actually examined Frank Castellano personally? Not in person, no. Judge Williams interrupted. Doctor, you're testifying about a man's mental competence without ever having examined him. I was provided with detailed reports from family members about his declining condition. Jim smiled. Doctor, are you familiar with the concept of medical ethics? Of course. Then you're aware that providing medical opinions about patients you've never examined violates those ethics? Dr. Morrison was sweating now. I was told this was an emergency situation. By whom? By Mrs. Castellano. And Mrs. Castellano paid you $5,000 for this opinion, didn't she? The courtroom went dead silent. I don't recall the exact amount. Jim pulled out a bank record. This is a deposit slip showing a $5,000 payment from Lisa Castellano to your account 3 days ago. Do you recall it now? Dr. Morrison looked at Judge Williams like a deer caught in headlights. Your Honor, I may have made an error in judgment. Judge Williams's voice could have frozen fire. Doctor, are you telling this court that you accepted payment to provide false medical testimony? I think I need to speak with an attorney. That's when Jim delivered the knockout punch. Your Honor, we'd like to call Dan Morrison to the stand. Dan Morrison walked to the witness stand with the bearing of a man who'd been waiting years to set the record straight about his brother. Mr. Morrison, what is your relationship to Dr. James Morrison? He's my older brother. And are you familiar with his professional reputation? Dan looked directly at Dr. Morrison. Unfortunately, yes. James has been investigated by the State Medical Board multiple times for providing false medical opinions in exchange for payment. Has your family tried to intervene? We've tried everything. James has been an embarrassment to our family for years. Judge Williams had heard enough. Mr. Chen, I'm dismissing this petition immediately. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the prosecutor's office for investigation of fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy. Michael jumped to his feet. Your Honor, this is all a misunderstanding. Sit down, Mr. Castellano. You'll have plenty of time to explain yourself to a criminal court. Judge Williams turned to me. Mr. Castellano, I apologize that the court system was used as a weapon against you. You are clearly competent to manage your own affairs. Thank you, Your Honor. As we left the courtroom, I saw 2 police officers waiting in the hallway. Detective Sarah Martinez approached Michael and Lisa with handcuffs. Michael Castellano and Lisa Castellano, you're under arrest for elder abuse, fraud, and conspiracy. Watching my son get handcuffed was the most painful moment of my life. But it was also necessary. Angela was waiting in the courthouse lobby, tears streaming down her face. Grandpa, I'm so sorry. I never thought my parents would actually do this to you. I hugged my granddaughter. Sweetheart, you helped save everything I've worked for. Your grandmother would be proud of your courage. Over the next few weeks, the full scope of Michael and Lisa's crimes became clear. The investigation revealed they'd been planning the guardianship scam for over a year. They'd researched nursing homes, contacted asset management companies, and even scouted properties in Florida where they planned to retire with my money. But the most shocking discovery came from Tony's continued investigation. Frank, you're not going to believe what I found. Try me. This wasn't their first time. Lisa pulled the same scam on her elderly aunt in California 5 years ago. She got guardianship, liquidated the woman's assets, and the aunt died alone in a state-run nursing home. The realization hit me like a truck. Lisa wasn't just greedy. She was a predator who specialized in stealing from elderly family members. Tony, does the California prosecutor know about this? They do now. Lisa's going to face charges in both states. 3 months later, Michael and Lisa went to trial. The evidence was overwhelming. The forged loan documents, the recorded conversations, Dr. Morrison's corrupt testimony, and now evidence of Lisa's previous crimes in California. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Michael was sentenced to 4 years in state prison for elder abuse and fraud. Lisa got 7 years because the judge found her to be the mastermind of the operation. Dr. Morrison lost his medical license permanently and received 2 years for perjury and fraud. During the sentencing hearing, Judge Williams made a statement that gave me some peace. Elder abuse is one of the most despicable crimes in our society. When family members betray the trust of their elderly relatives for financial gain, they attack the very foundation of family bonds. The sentences I'm imposing today send a clear message that such behavior will not be tolerated. But the real victory came 6 months later. I was in my office reviewing plans for a new housing development when Angela knocked on my door. "Grandpa, I have something to tell you." "What's that, sweetheart?" "I changed my major from neurology to elder law. I want to become an attorney who protects seniors from people like my parents." I felt my chest swell with pride. "Your grandmother would be so proud of you." "I also want to work for Castellano Construction during summer breaks. I want to learn the business from the ground up, the way you did." This was the moment I'd been hoping for since the day Angela was born. "Sweetheart, there's something I need to tell you about your future." I handed her a copy of my updated will. "When you turn 25, you'll inherit everything. The business, the properties, all of it. But there are conditions." She read through the document carefully. "You want me to maintain the company's reputation for honesty and quality work? I want you to understand that what we build here isn't just about money. It's about creating something that lasts, something that employs good people and makes communities better. Grandpa, I promise I'll never let you down the way Dad did. Angela, your father let himself down. You can't disappoint someone who doesn't believe in taking shortcuts." A year later, I received a letter that brought everything full circle. It was from Michael, written from state prison. "Dad, I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness. I know what Lisa and I did was unforgivable. But I want you to know that prison has given me time to think about what I threw away. You built something amazing, and instead of appreciating it, I tried to steal it. I was so focused on what I thought I deserved that I forgot about what I needed to earn. I don't expect you to respond to this letter. I don't expect you to visit me or accept my apology. But I needed you to know that I finally understand what you tried to teach me about hard work and integrity. I hope Angela becomes the child you always wanted me to be. Your son, Michael." I read that letter 3 times before deciding what to do with it. Then I walked to Angela's new office, the one I'd had built for her next to mine, and handed it to her. "Your father wrote this. I think you should read it." She read it silently, tears forming in her eyes. "Grandpa, what do you think I should do?" "That's not my decision to make, sweetheart. He's your father. You have to decide if forgiveness is something you can offer. What about you? Can you forgive him?" I thought about that question for a long time. "Angela, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean trusting someone who's betrayed you. It means letting go of anger so it doesn't poison your own life. So you forgive him." "I forgive the boy who used to help me in the workshop on Saturdays. I don't trust the man who tried to steal my life's work. Those are 2 different people." 6 months later, Angela made her decision. She visited Michael in prison, not to reconcile, but to tell him exactly how his actions had affected his family. She came back with red eyes but clear resolve. "Grandpa, I told him that if he wanted any relationship with me after prison, he'd have to earn it. Just like you taught me. Everything worth having requires effort and character." "What did he say?" "He said he understood. He said he'd spend the rest of his life trying to become someone worthy of being your son again." As I write this, Michael still has 2 years left on his sentence. Lisa was deported to California to face charges there after serving her time in New Jersey. But the real ending to this story isn't about them. It's about sitting in my office at 71 years old, watching my granddaughter learn to run job sites with the same passion I had 50 years ago. It's about knowing that Castellano Construction will continue for another generation with someone who understands that reputation takes decades to build and seconds to destroy. It's about the letter I received last week from the New Jersey Elder Protection Agency, asking me to speak at conferences about recognizing and preventing family-based financial abuse. Most of all, it's about understanding that sometimes the best way to love your family is to refuse to let them destroy themselves with greed and dishonesty. I built Castellano Construction to last. My son tried to tear it down for quick money. My granddaughter will build it even stronger, and that's a legacy worth fighting for, no matter who tries to steal it, even if they happen to be your own children. 3 years later, I was standing in front of 200 senior citizens at the New Jersey Elder Protection Conference when someone in the audience asked the question I'd been dreading. "Mr. Castellano, do you ever regret destroying your son's life?" I looked out at the sea of faces, men and women in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, who'd come to learn how to protect themselves from the kind of betrayal I'd experienced. Some had worried expressions, others showed the hard-earned wisdom that comes from surviving family warfare. "I didn't destroy my son's life," I replied. "I stopped him from destroying mine." The applause was immediate and sustained. These people understood what it meant to be viewed as vulnerable by your own family, to have adult children who saw dollar signs instead of parents. But that question haunted me as I drove home to New Jersey that evening. Had I been too harsh? Could I have found a way to save Michael without sending him to prison? The answer was waiting for me on my kitchen table. Angela had left another letter from Michael, the fourth one he'd sent since beginning his sentence. I'd read the previous 3 but never responded. This one felt different. "Dad, I know you don't read these letters, but I need to tell you something important. I've been working in the prison library, helping other inmates with legal research. 3 of the men I've helped were convicted of elder abuse, stealing from their own parents, just like I tried to steal from you. Every time I help one of them understand why their sentences were fair, I understand a little more about what I did to you. I didn't just try to steal your money. Dad, I tried to steal your dignity, your independence, your right to make decisions about your own life. The worst part is that I convinced myself I was doing it for your own good. I told myself you were getting old, that you needed protection, that I knew better than you did about what was best for your life. I was wrong about everything. You built Castellano Construction with 50 years of honest work. I tried to destroy it with 6 months of lies. You earned every dollar in your accounts. I tried to steal it with forged signatures and fake medical reports. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even deserve it. But I want you to know that your son finally understands the difference between earning something and taking it. I also want you to know that I'm proud of Angela. The men in here talk about their families during visiting hours, and I've heard stories about what she's doing with the business. You chose the right heir, Dad. She's going to build something even better than what you started. I have 2 more years in here. When I get out, I won't ask for a place in your life or your business. I'll just try to become someone worthy of being called your son again. Your son, Michael." I read that letter twice, then walked to Angela's apartment. At 24, my granddaughter had grown into a remarkable woman. She'd graduated summa cum laude from law school, passed the New Jersey bar exam on her first try, and spent the past year learning every aspect of Castellano Construction from the ground up. More importantly, she'd earned the respect of our crews, our clients, and our competitors through the same qualities that had built the business: honesty, competence, and absolute reliability. "Grandpa, you look like you've seen a ghost," she said as she opened her door. I handed her Michael's letter. "Your father's been thinking." She read it silently, her expression cycling through surprise, sadness, and something that might have been hope. "What do you think, Grandpa?" "I think your father is finally understanding consequences. But understanding and changing are different things. Do you think people can really change?" That was the question I'd been wrestling with for 3 years. "Angela, I've seen men change during my 50 years in business. I've seen lazy workers become dedicated employees. I've seen dishonest subcontractors become trustworthy partners. But I've also seen people who apologize beautifully and then make the same mistakes as soon as the spotlight moves away. So, how do you tell the difference? Time, consistency, actions that match words, especially when nobody's watching. She folded the letter carefully. Grandpa, I want to tell you something. I've been visiting Dad in prison. The news surprised me, though it probably shouldn't have. How long? 6 months. I go every other Sunday. I wanted to see if the man who wrote these letters was real, or just someone trying to manipulate his way out of consequences. And what have you concluded? Angela's answer showed wisdom beyond her years. I think Dad is genuinely remorseful. I also think he's terrified of getting out of prison and having to rebuild his life from nothing. The man who used to think he deserved everything now understands he's earned nothing. How do you feel about that? Honestly, part of me is glad he's scared. Fear might be the only thing that keeps him honest when he gets out. That evening, I sat in my study surrounded by 50 years of business records and family photos. Pictures of Michael as a boy, learning to use tools in my workshop, photos of Angela's graduation from law school, newspaper clippings from the trial that had made our family's dysfunction public knowledge. I made a decision that surprised even me. I wrote my first letter to Michael. Son, I received your latest letter. After 3 years, I'm finally ready to respond. You're right about everything you wrote. You didn't just try to steal money. You tried to steal my autonomy, my dignity, and my right to control my own life. You convinced yourself that age made me incompetent, that love justified theft, that you knew better than I did about what was best for me. You were wrong about all of it. But you're also right about Angela. She's become everything I hoped you would be. She's honest, competent, hardworking, and she understands that respect is earned, not inherited. When you get out of prison, you'll have a choice to make. You can spend the rest of your life trying to prove you've changed, or you can slip back into the entitled thinking that got you convicted in the first place. If you choose to prove you've changed, it won't be easy. You'll have to rebuild your reputation from zero. You'll have to earn trust you once took for granted. You'll have to live with the consequences of your choices for the rest of your life, but if you're willing to do that work, real work, not just words, then maybe we can find a way to be father and son again. Not the way we were before, when you thought being my heir gave you the right to control me. A new way based on mutual respect instead of family obligation. The choice is yours, Michael. But whatever you choose, choose it honestly. Your father, Frank. 6 months later, Michael was released from prison. I wasn't there to pick him up. Neither was Angela. He'd arranged his own transportation and his own housing, a small apartment across town, where he'd have to rebuild his life without anyone's help. His first job was washing dishes at a diner en route. Minimum wage. No benefits, no recognition. For a man who'd once expected to inherit a multi-million-dollar business, it was probably humbling. But he stuck with it. After 3 months, he was promoted to line cook. After 6 months, the owner offered him a management position. Michael turned it down. I'm not ready to manage anything yet, he told Angela when she asked about it. I need to learn how to be reliable before I try to be responsible for other people. That answer impressed me more than any apology ever could. A year after his release, Michael asked if he could visit me. Not at the office, not at a construction site, but at my home. The same house where he'd tried to have me declared incompetent 4 years earlier. I agreed. He arrived exactly on time, carrying a small gift bag and wearing work clothes that smelled like honest labor. The cocky real estate salesman was gone, replaced by someone who looked like he'd learned what real work felt like. Dad, thank you for agreeing to see me. Sit down, Michael. Tell me about your life. He talked about the diner, about learning to cook, about the satisfaction of earning his paycheck instead of stealing it. He talked about the other ex-convicts he worked with, men who'd made similar mistakes and were trying to build honest lives. Dad, I brought you something. He handed me the gift bag. Inside was a wooden jewelry box, clearly handmade, with F. Castellano carved into the lid. I've been taking woodworking classes at the community center. This is my first decent piece. I examined the box carefully. The joints were tight, the finish was smooth, and the carving was precise. This is good work, Michael. Thank you. I wanted to make something with my hands instead of just taking something someone else built. What do you want from me, son? He was quiet for a long moment. I want to earn the right to be your son again. Not your heir, not your successor, just your son. Someone you're not ashamed to be related to. And how do you plan to do that? By living honestly. By working hard. by never again thinking I deserve anything I haven't earned. I looked at my son, really looked at him, for the first time in years. The entitled anger was gone. The assumption that the world owed him something had been replaced by humility. He looked like a man who'd learned the hardest lesson life can teach. That character matters more than connections. Michael, I'm proud of the work you've done on yourself. But I need you to understand something. Trust isn't rebuilt with one conversation or one wooden box. It's rebuilt with years of consistent behavior. I understand, do you? Because if you're expecting some dramatic reconciliation scene, you're going to be disappointed. If you're expecting me to offer you a job or a place in the business, that's not going to happen. Dad, I don't expect anything except the chance to prove I've changed. Good, because that's all I'm offering. 2 years later, I was diagnosed with early-stage prostate cancer. The prognosis was excellent, caught early, highly treatable, expected full recovery. But it was still cancer, and it still made me think about mortality in ways I'd been avoiding. Angela handled the news with characteristic strength, researching treatment options and accompanying me to every doctor's appointment. Michael heard about it through her and asked if he could visit me in the hospital. I said yes. He arrived with flowers and the kind of genuine concern I hadn't seen from him since he was a child. Dad, how are you feeling? Like a 74-year-old man with cancer who's going to beat it anyway. He smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him in years. Is there anything you need? Anything I can do? Actually, there is something. I handed him a legal document I'd been carrying in my briefcase. This is a revised will. Angela still inherits the business and most of the assets. But there's a trust fund set up for you, $200,000 that becomes available when you turn 50, provided you meet certain conditions. Michael's eyes filled with tears. Dad, I don't deserve this. You're right. You don't deserve it. But Angela convinced me that people who've genuinely changed deserve a second chance. What are the conditions? 5 years of steady employment, no criminal convictions, completion of a financial literacy course, and a letter of recommendation from someone who's worked with you closely enough to vouch for your character. These are fair conditions. They're designed to make sure you've really changed, not just learned to say the right words. He folded the document carefully. Dad, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Do you think you'll ever forgive me completely? I thought about that question for a long time. Michael, forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's a process. Every time you make an honest choice instead of a selfish one, I forgive you a little more. Every time you earn something instead of trying to take it, you rebuild a little more trust. So the answer is maybe. The answer is that it depends on who you choose to be for the rest of your life. 6 months later, I was declared cancer-free. A year after that, Angela officially became the president of Castellano Construction, while I transitioned to chairman emeritus. At the company party celebrating the transition, Michael sent a card. Dad, I'm proud of the legacy you built and the daughter you raised. Angela is going to take Castellano Construction to heights you never imagined, and she'll do it with the same integrity you taught both of us. I may have forgotten those lessons for a while, but I'm grateful that she never did. Congratulations on building something that will last for generations. Your son, Michael. That card sits on my desk today, next to photos of Angela breaking ground on our latest project, a senior living complex designed specifically to prevent the kind of abuse I experienced. As I write this, I'm 76 years old. Michael is still working at the diner, now as assistant manager. He's been promoted 3 times and has turned down 2 offers to open his own restaurant. I'm not ready for that responsibility yet, he told Angela. Maybe in a few years. He's dating a nurse named Patricia who doesn't know about his past. When she inevitably finds out, we'll see if his commitment to honesty extends to difficult conversations with people he cares about. Angela is transforming Castellano Construction into something bigger than I ever imagined. She's added an elder protection division that helps seniors retrofit their homes for aging in place. She's established a scholarship fund for students studying elder law. She's become a voice for senior rights in New Jersey and beyond. Most importantly, she's proven that character can skip a generation. The business I started with a pickup truck and a toolbox is now a multi-generational legacy based on principles that matter more than profit. Honesty, competence and respect for human dignity. Michael tried to steal that legacy with lies and forgery. Instead, he destroyed his own life and strengthened the very principles he'd tried to corrupt. There's a lesson in that for every family dealing with elder abuse. The perpetrators think they're stealing money or property, but what they're really stealing is trust. And once trust is broken, it takes years to rebuild, if it can be rebuilt at all. Some people, like Michael, do the hard work of earning redemption. Others disappear into their shame and never recover. The difference isn't intelligence or family loyalty or love. The difference is character, the willingness to face consequences honestly and rebuild from the ground up. If you're a senior citizen listening to this story, remember this. You have the right to control your own life until the day you die. Age doesn't make you incompetent. Family relationships don't give other people the right to make decisions for you. And if someone, anyone, even your own children, tries to steal your autonomy, you have the right to fight back with everything you have. If you're an adult child of aging parents, remember this. Love means respecting people's choices, not controlling them. Support means helping people maintain their independence, not taking it away. And if you're tempted to shortcut your inheritance by manipulating the legal system, remember that prison jumpsuit orange doesn't look good on anyone. As for me, I'm spending my remaining years doing 3 things. Teaching Angela everything I know about running a business with integrity, speaking at conferences about elder abuse prevention, and giving Michael the chance to prove he's learned the difference between taking what you want and earning what you deserve. Whether he succeeds or fails is up to him. But either way, the legacy of Castellano Construction, built on honesty, maintained through crisis, and passed to someone who truly deserves it, will continue long after I'm gone. And that's all any man can really ask for, to build something that lasts, protect it from those who would destroy it, and pass it on to someone who will make it even better. At 76, I've learned that the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's building something so strong, so lasting, and so valuable that their attempts to tear it down only make it stronger. Frank Castellano built an empire. Michael Castellano tried to steal it. Angela Castellano inherited it honestly, and that's how it should be.